What is up, all you GBA type fans? This is Tom. I'm here bringing you guys week 2 of the GBA. This will be my team builder against Kooper and the Utah Jasmine. Now, for anyone who's watched the GBA from Season 2 and a part of Season 3, and then Season 6 and this season, you'll know that every season I look forward to playing Kooper, and I think that some of the games that we have are, they're fun, even including that 6-0 monstrosity, horrific game that we had. But this week we'll be prepping for Kooper, and instead of going through every little nuance like I did last week for Lars, there will be some kind of hidden details that I'll have in regards to my team, which we'll get to in a moment. Starting off, we're going to look at Kooper's team, and right off the bat you're going to see that again I ranked him from left to right, top line and down, all of the different threats that I think that he'll bring and how they threaten my team. But first off, we have a big nuke button that I think is a threat to my team, but pretty much a threat to anyone's team. It's very difficult to prepare for a Darmanitan. I have to pretty much ensure that I figure out its item, if he does bring it, as well as exactly just keep my faster mons faster than it, being a Scarf Mon or something that can kind of take a hit and then kind of hit it back even harder. So that's kind of the game plan for Darmanitan. That obviously being the first thing I was looking at in terms of preparation. And then we have like his trio that I think, specifically Zapdos. A lot of Kooper's team is just its option for bulk, like Reuniclus and Zapdos, both of which I can see being brought this week. Zapdos can be a Spadef, some sort of toxicking thing, can pivot around with Volt Switch. Reuniclus can be a Spadef version. He can Calm Mind against certain things on my team, like P2 or even Vaporeon on a switch out. Like if he brings it in versus Nidoqueen and it's not necessarily Spadef, he could bring it in and then ensure that he can get a Calm Mind up, and then of course kind of go from there. So those two things are, primarily they're bulky, but also they have a good typing versus my team, or just in general, to set up or otherwise just be effective at whatever role they're placed into. Then of course in the middle we have Manaphy. Manaphy is always a threat, gotta prepare for that Tail Glow, whether it's timid or it's a little bit more bulky, it's defensive, special defensive, just straight up modest. He could run it modest because once he is already slower than Thundurus, so my next fastest mon is going to be Hitmonlee. So he can run it a little bit more bulky, which I'm expecting, so I gotta prepare accordingly. Moving down from there, we have two things that do provide good utility as well as some physical offense and a good bit of priority, being Breloom and of course Cloyster. Now Cloyster has the Ice Shard, it has the Skill Link, it could also smash in front of pretty much anything, barring like Vaporeon and even Porygon 2. And then you have Breloom, which I need to prepare for just because, Bullet Seed and Focus Punch and even the Toxic Heal set. I need to have something that can specifically take on that from being annoying, because I really don't want him to get behind a sub. I really don't want to have to risk bringing something in to take a hit, pivot out to break his sub, and then still allow him to heal enough with Poison Heal to put up another sub. I know Breloom hasn't been the most prolific mon in the GBA in the history that's been used, but it's always a threat, and I need to look at that accordingly in order to prevent it from being a gigantic pain in my ass. So, moving down, we have a Powdon, which I know, if he brings it, is going to merely be a defensive wall for something like Zygarde or even Hitmonlee. However, I do think that if he brings in Powdon, I almost get a free switch, because he has to slack off, because if he doesn't slack off, and if it's just leftovers, he tries to go for an attacking move or a status, and he comes in again after that, it's a 2-shot. So Hippowdon is both like a liability, but also with if I have rocks up, or if he just doesn't recover or takes too many hits, then it's just going to be a dead hippo, assuming it just keeps getting bopped all over. Then we move down from there, and the last four are kind of iffy if he brings them. I think the top 6 or 7 are more likely, but Swellow I could see a case for him bringing. It's in a good speed tier, base 125, so even if I did have Ribombee, it would have still outpaced it. He can U-turn. Now that it's actually usable in terms of speed, attack, special attack, he can Boom Burst, he can Protect, or Facade is going to do a lot of damage to pretty much anything. He could, of course, Brave Bird with the Guts boost. He could Facade with the Guts boost. And even Porygon 2 is not going to enjoy that. Defensive Vaporeon's not going to enjoy that. I don't even... Celesteal is my best check to it, but you look at the rest of his team, and Celesteal is kind of at a disadvantage, or turns into setup fodder. So I can't see Swallow being brought. Scrafty, kind of questionable. Now, he can knock off a lot of my team. It is a bigger threat to Porygon 2, but it's not going to enjoy hits from Thundurus and even Hitmonlee. And now that I have Gardevoir, I threaten him, 4x with the fairy, the good fairy coverage. And then finally we have Klefki. Klefki, I think, is more of a liability because I have a Nidoqueen. I have Thundurus, which I can pivot around, so he can't necessarily T-Wave. He can Spikes, he can Foul Play, he can play rough, he can do all these other shenanigans, but I think it puts it more to liability than an actual check to a lot of my teams because he can set up hazards. However, I think there are means for me to handle and or cripple it. And then finally, Comfey. I don't see him bring Comfey. I have a Nidoqueen. I have a Thundurus. It's good if it gets, a Calm Mind up, 2 Calm Minds up, and then, of course, Draining Kiss with Triage has more priority than an Extreme Speed, which is fucking ridiculous. But with how I think he's going to counter or check my physical threats, Hitmonlee, Incineroar, Zydog, don't see Comfey being the best answer, but I do see other things like a Powdon or Reuniclus, or even a potentially Intimidate Scrafty or a bulky Cloyster to be those type of threats. Because, Cloyster has the Ice Shard. Scrafty just has a good typing. It has Shed Shells, Intimidate, Shed Skin. Overall, what I'm predicting Kooper to bring is, for his bulkier mons, Zapdos, Reuniclus, Hippowdon. For his more offensive-y, pivot-y mons, I think Breloom, like Swellow, Darmanitan, 2 of those 3, and then finally I could see Manaphy coming. But Kooper is kind of a wild card. He can bring different things, and overall this could be just a match of how do I, if he doesn't bring what I expect him to bring, how do I then get over that and still have a good match with what I'm bringing. So we're going to go into my team right now. Like I said, I'm not going to go into full detail onto what I brought just because of the fact that I do play Kooper twice. I'm sorry if other coaches do explain their entire team, but anything that I didn't reveal, I don't necessarily want to reveal to kind of put the idea into my opponent's head that, oh, this is what he was looking at. Well, if I adjust it for next time, this is what he's going to... I can kind of catch him off guard. I'm going to try and avoid that. Hopefully you understand, but I'm still going to go into detail about what I brought, because a lot of the stuff that I do bring obviously gets revealed in the battle. So first off, we have Thundurus T. Thundurus T this week pretty much bops a lot of his team. This week we have a Yachi Berry set. Now, primarily, it is going to be a Nasty Plot set that can set up on... There's a few things it could set up on. It could set up on a Force Switch, but otherwise it's going to have T-Bolt, Grass Knot, Last Move pending. And overall, Timid, obviously to outpace the Manaphy, pretty much max speed, max special attack. But T-Bolt, Grass Knot, T-Bolt hits the majority of his team, and then Grass Knot hits the Hippowdon, and of course if he comes in and just a Timid Grass Knot to Hippowdon, it does massive damage, and then a +2, it's dead. So, it's kind of why I'm bringing Thundurus. It's just a really good bring, but remember, it's not that good. It's not that special offensive, as the analysts have already pointed out. My team is not that offensive. This is purely a bulky team. I'm going to hold that chip on my shoulder until they are proven otherwise. Next up, we have Nidoqueen. The item wasn't revealed in the battle, so I'm not going to necessarily reveal that, but it is going to be carrying Stealth Rock, as it's the only thing on my team that can, run Stealth Rock. It's going to be running Bolt Beam coverage, which pretty much hits a lot of Kooper's team very hard, and of course Stab. It's going to be a very bulky set on both sides. Bold to pretty much take hits from Breloom, and it can also take hits. Not going to enjoy hits from Cloyster, but it can essentially live certain hits. It can also ensure that I get off damage for the Darmanitan if it, of course, goes for Flare Blitz. But also, if it goes for Earthquake, ow. It's a stop to Zapdos from just Volt Switching all over my team. So that's kind of the purpose of Nidoqueen this week. Next up, we have a special defensive Vaporeon with leftovers. This is just going to be your typical set to stop Manaphy from being a Manaphy. Calm, I believe it has enough speed for a Adamant Scrafty. I think that's correct. because that's pretty much the next thing that's closest to its actual speed tier. It's going to be, like I said, max HP-ish, and then max speed def to ensure that I can, of course, take a non-invested energy ball if he goes for the boost. I have Roar to get it out. I have Wish to heal myself. Scald to maybe pick up a burn on something annoying, like whether it's Breloom or Cloyster or even Scrafty. But also, this just allows me to have a bulkier mon to take hits. Also, with all of its HP and the fact that it's a Vaporeon, I could take a hit from Darmanitan if, again, goes for Flare Blitz, kind of ensuring that Darmanitan kills itself to Stealth Rock and its own Flare Blitz recoil. Next up, we're going to have Porygon 2. This is a bit of a weirder set. This is going to be a modest Porygon 2. It's not going to be super bulky. I mean, obviously, it's a Porygon 2, so we are running max HP. A lot of special attack investment. Enough speed, again, to hit the same speed tier that Vaporeon's going to hit to outspeed an Adamant max or speed creep Scrafty for my base 65s. Because if Vaporeon's base 65 and I have a base 60, base 61 in Celesteela, I'm going to try and ensure that I could outpace a Scrafty. Just so maybe if I'm in on it, it's a one-on-one, I could at least hit it with damage rather than let it get off, knock off a Drain Punch, high jump kick, whatever. But this is going to be like I said, Bolt Beams pretty much seems to be a running theme. Recover, obviously, and Charge Beam. So I could boost up on a substitute. I could break a sub, whether it's Reuniclus, whether it's Manaphy, it's Zapdos. Even Breloom, they all can run sub. Electric hits all of those neutral, if not super effective. And the idea is just to kind of, if something like Manaphy or something like Reuniclus, both of which can run Calm Mind and do have a reason to run Calm Mind, I'm going to try and do the same thing. At least one-on-one. And of course, just either coverage move is going to be doing a good chunk of damage so I can keep pace with their special defense boosts. Next up, we have a fun Mon that's not offensive, guys. This is not an offensive Mon. It's Hitmonlee. It's just a Rapid Spinner. It's a bad Rapid Spinner, too. This is going to be a Life Orb, Reckless, Adamant, because of speed tiers. Sweet, sweet speed tiers. High Jump Kick. Knockoff. Move that didn't get revealed. And Rapid Spin. Nothing is going to come out of this that's going to be even remotely offensive because, as we see, most of Kooper's team is going to chew a Reckless Life Orb Adamant High Jump Kick. Finally, we're going to have a Choice Scarf for Gardevoir, Dual Stab, HP Fire for Klefki, and Trick. And the trick is going to be specifically to cripple something like Reuniclus on a switch in. It can also cripple Klefki to an extent. And it can even... And I'm not going to like giving Manaphy a Choice Scarf, but if I was to give something a Choice Scarf, I could take away its leftovers or its Life Orb, and which then would allow, if it locked itself in Ice Beam, with the Yachi Berry with Thunderous, assuming it wasn't popped yet, I can then go ahead and just, blast it. But that's kind of the idea here, is just to be faster than his fastest Mon. I believe I am outpacing a Swellow, if not I believe Breloom. But that's the idea for the entire team. If you have any feedback, any sort of things that you think that I should have brought, maybe I had things I didn't bring, let me know in the comments down below. Sorry if this video runs a little long. It's a little early this morning, so hopefully you all enjoy the battle. Tomorrow I'm going to upload it around 1 o'clock. I will see you all then. Until then, later.